Hey, so a few months ago I was looking to upgrade my daily workflow as a web designer and I got myself a refurbished M1 MacBook Pro 16-inch, the base model. Before that I've been mainly using a 13-inch MacBook Pro from the early 2017s for my design and web work, and it was getting pretty long in the tooth as you can imagine. It was Intel. So in this video I want to share some findings and thoughts on the M1 MacBook Pro, specifically the 16-inch from a web designer's point of view, as well as to see if getting an M1 MacBook Pro in 2023 is a viable option, especially now the M3 iterations are out. Whether it's a good idea to get one if you're looking to get a MacBook Pro but don't want to pay the premium price tag for the latest device. A little context. So I've been looking to get a new MacBook Pro to elevate my workflow, which mainly consisted of graphic web design and a bit of music production in my downtime. And around a few months ago, after unexpectedly getting a series of design projects which pushed the limits of my old MacBook Pro 13 and slowed me down somewhat, I decided to go for a refurbished M1 16-inch from the Apple Store. After doing some research and hearing a lot of positive reviews about how good the refurbished models are. Basically, you get a new case and a new battery, plus you also get a limited 1-year warranty. Honestly, I couldn't tell it from a brand new device, except for the box, which looks different. First impressions, I was actually surprised that the silver version isn't as silver as I'd seen on the review videos. Apparently, it depends on the light, and sure, it's brighter compared to my old space gray MacBook, but on its own, I'd easily mistake it for a gray model, not a silver one. The weight for my 16-incher is not heavy and heavy at the same time. Compared to similar Windows machines, it felt lighter in my hands, and I can haul it around without an issue, but having it in your backpack traveling, that's when you'll feel it weighing you down, especially if your commute is long. If your main concern is portability, I definitely go for the 14-inch, but keep in mind you'll be giving up a few things such as a bigger screen, a longer battery life, and a bigger set of fans to keep it cool. For me, I rarely travel and just moving it around the house was not really an issue, of course. One of my main reasons for picking up the 16-inch was the big display. With my old 13-inch, it was ridiculous to try and get my work done on its cramped screen. It makes me claustrophobic. I was constantly using an external display whenever possible. With this beast though, I rarely need the external screen and I can depend on the display to be color accurate. It is a 16.2-inch Liquid Retina XDR mini LED display. Man, that's a mouthful. Naturally, this is a big deal for graphic design and color accurate work. It's also much easier to multitask when needed. I can flip between folders and windows with ease. Nowadays, I usually start and finish entire client projects without the need for an external display, and I'm quite happy with that. While deciding whether I should get the 14 or the 16-inch, I almost went for the 14, but let me tell you, I'm really glad I got this one. Then there's the notch. Look, if you fixate on it, it'll annoy you. But I've grown accustomed to it perhaps. On a daily basis, most people will not notice it. Some menus do pop over to the other side, which is, well, inelegant. Now the keyboard and trackpad have been pretty good. I do feel the sharp edges of the machine digging into my wrists. A little irritating at times, but not a huge issue. What's worse is the humongous trackpad, which turns out to be a double-edged sword because oftentimes I found the cursor to click on stuff by accident while I'm typing out long paragraphs. On the other hand, it's so convenient that I often prefer it over my mouse, really. Now, the keyboard is an objective improvement over the previous generation of butterfly keyboards. We all know the story with that. I can't really complain with these, but I still prefer the tactility of the ThinkPad keyboards. The black background it's a matter of taste perhaps. It's much easier to spot tiny specks of dust and lint, and it drives me mad. In terms of I/O, this is what you get. I guess this is Apple's way of admitting that they messed up dropping the ports that professionals use. Just like they messed up with the previous generation keyboard. I do wish we had gotten a USB-A port as well. Oh well, at least we got the MagSafe back. And I find it really convenient. The speakers, on the other hand, those are the best I've seen, or heard in this case. It can easily fill the whole room without distortion.
Hold that, calling to the phone. Who is on the side? Bring me to the altar. Save me when I falter. Yeah, calling to the phone.
When it comes to battery life, man, let me tell you, those reviews weren't kidding. So, real world talk. On the first day I charged it to 100% and unplugged it at 6 p.m. Then I started using it for light tasks, web browsing, YouTube installing software, downloading, so on. By midnight it was down to 70%. The next day it took me another 4 hours of light and medium usage to get it down halfway. With what's considered my heavy workload usage, I can easily get 8 hours or more before it reaches 20%. Of course, I'm not editing 4K footage with loads of effects or compiling tons of code. Your mileage may vary a bit, but I've been very happy with the battery life so far, and it's a huge deal for me because where I live, blackouts are regular. This is another reason I picked the 16-inch over the 14. The bigger battery is just perfect for my needs. Though it needs to be said that when rendering out videos on full power, you can drain the battery within 4 hours or less. But on normal usage, it'll easily last you a full day. Performance is something I want to talk in terms of relativity because you can easily find benchmarks online, especially for a device this old. But as someone coming from an Intel MacBook, I'm very happy with the performance. My design work and apps don't really push the machine, if at all. Heck, it barely warms up when I'm designing on Photoshop. On my old Intel MacBook, it would fry. When I'm in one of my music production sessions, that's where I see the machine's performance really shine. Usually I stack a lot of plugins and samplers on a typical production, and it's quite demanding for most machines, even my old desktop workstation, but this thing, it just runs smoothly. I've yet to reach the point where my stacks of effects and virtual synths slow it down. It warms up a bit though. The performance headroom here, not to mention Apple's very strong optimization, is great enough that lots of professional users are holding on to their M1 MacBooks, deferring the upgrade to M2 or even M3s. I'm not really a Mac gamer to be honest, and I have multiple Windows devices for gaming, so I didn't try much gaming on this MacBook Pro, but I did try some light emulation and a few small games. They run fine. So performance leads us right into heat management. It's something I have to be very mindful of because I've noticed that when a lot of reviews touch up on this subject, they often fail to mention the environment that the machine is in, and that's an essential factor. I live in a hot, humid country, and the temperatures usually range from anywhere between high 20s to almost 40 degrees centigrade when there's no AC. My old MacBook Pro 13 had real issues handling normal workloads and managing that heat on warm days that go above 35 degrees, so I had to use external solutions to keep it cool. Inelegant, but it works. For this new 16-inch MacBook Pro, I've never had to do that. Its processor handles anything without breaking a sweat, and when it gets warm, it usually dissipates heat quickly thanks to its huge body. The only caveat I've noticed is when the battery is charging quickly. Then it stays warm until the percentage goes above 90%. Overall, heat's not an issue for this beautiful beast. As an aside, I've noticed that Apple prefers to keep the fans off whenever possible, keep things quiet. So, in conclusion, is the M1 MacBook Pro still a good buy in 2023? It would depend on whom you ask, but for a majority of people, I definitely say it is. Unless you're a professional film producer rendering 4K videos on your device or a dev compiling tons of code all day, this thing won't disappoint. I've yet to encounter a scenario where I'm waiting for the machine to keep up, and I can say with confidence that it has enough headroom for my work for the next couple of years at the very least. Apple certainly future-proofed this beast, so much so that I've heard they haven't been able to sell the newer generations as much as they'd hoped. meaning most people are still perfectly happy with their M1 devices. And you can find a lot of YouTubers who have said once when the M2 chips came out and again when the M3 did that they're keeping their M1 MacBook Pros. Hold off upgrading. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the refurbished M1 MacBook Pro. If you're on the fence about it, I'd say go for it. You wouldn't regret it. Thanks for watching and catch you next time.